Michelle Stallings. I'll keep it short. I don't know how much time I have left. A few months ago in June, you guys had a discussion about funding the sidewalks for downtown Lehi. And since the downtown revitalization study is coming up, I wanted to take a few minutes and talk about it, but I'll skip that. But I did have a conversation with Councilmember Condi a while ago, and he had a good idea, and I wanted to follow up on that, to do a walking tour downtown Lehi. The issue, I think, is more urgent than you realize, and I think it's important for you to see it for yourself, to gather that information and talk to some of the residents down there and see what their concerns are. I would love to do it this Saturday if you're available, but I'll send an email out to each of you to organize that, and I have some residents, so I'll be happy to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question, if that's okay. Do we know do you remember the total it was to build out those sidewalks if we did them? Where's Dean?
It's over $16 million.
16 million?
Citywide.
16 million citywide to build out the sidewalks.
Well,
Actually, that's just
That's just downtown, that's not, sorry,
Old Town, yeah.
16 million just to build out the sidewalks in downtown.
And we are making every attempt to make progress through those. We do have a systematic plan to replace them when we can, but of course we're picking the lowest fruit to do it as we go along. So, but we do that through the CBDG money, and generally when it's available, the Safe Routes to School money when it's available, and we've used the state safety money when it's available. MAG is applying for I think it's called the Safe Communities Grant. Looking around to see if Kim, is that the right name for that? Safe Communities Grant?
Yeah, the
Safe
Streets for All.
Safe Streets for All.
Yeah.
And so they're making application for that now. And so there are opportunities to create sidewalks also through that grant opportunity. And that is where there will be money available for that.
Sorry. I'm watching the clock,
Go
and
ahead.
I wanted to be respectful
go
of your
ahead.
time.
No, I asked the question.
appreciate
But
it.
Okay,
you
you're good.
did.
You're
You
good.
opened
You're
it
good.
up, and I
did.
actually had planned to address some of the things that were brought up in that meeting, but I'm watching the time, and I know how late you guys go sometimes. I did the math, though. If you continue status quo with the CDGB, $200,000 and $300,000 a year, it's going to take almost 50 years just to do the sidewalks. That's not the curb and gutter. So there's a concern there. The need is more urgent. And again, I've talked to residents. I've been out knocking doors and talking to people, and I've heard stories from kids. You know, I was out there for the Lehi Sky Ridge game. And the people were parked clear in the residential area. And this is at night, and kids are walking on the gravel side of the street, on the shoulder of the road, in the dark to get to that game. There's a lot of people who use that area of town. You know, you talked about, should this be funded by taxpayers because it adds value to private property. I just want to point out something that wasn't mentioned in that meeting, that sidewalks are owned by the city. They are public property. You wanted residents to pay for something that will be used by the public, that will be owned by the public, by the city. It's used by the public. It's owned by the public. I think public dollars, it's okay to go there for that. We pay for parks in parts of towns we'll never go to. We pay for roads in parts of town we'll never use. I think it's okay to use taxpayer dollars for this. It's a safety thing. We talked about availability of money. Where are we going to find the money for this? You spent $600,000 to buy a piece of property, one little lot, to build a downtown civic plaza on a walking plaza for aesthetic purposes. It's not a safety thing. You spent $900,000 on a piece of property across from Main Street with surplus funds, $900,000 of money you needed to spend because you were at your limit for your surplus funds. You bought a piece of property you don't even have a need for, that you have in case you want to develop it someday. Okay? If you have money to spend on those things, I think you have money to spend on sidewalks for kids to walk to school on. So again, come on out and talk to these residents who live down here. See what their needs are. See that it is a safety issue. Just ask that you do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other public comment? Okay. Oh, we do.
I love your turquoise ring, by the way. That hand right there, that one. It's gorgeous.
Geraldine Daly, I would certainly like you all to come and walk in our neighborhood. I've been wanting sidewalks for 40 years, and we certainly love Lehi. We appreciate where we live. We try to beautify Lehi. Right now, since Quench got put in, we have groups of kids walking from the high school up to Quench to get drinks. There are groups of 2 to 6, and then back to the high school. There's no sidewalk for them to walk on. They're walking on the street in groups. I really think that we need sidewalks. Sidewalks make the city look cleaner, nicer, more inviting. And our neighborhood, it's an old neighborhood, and we should be able to get a sidewalk. And I understand that some people have to pay for them, but there's a lot of people that don't pay for them. And we have sidewalks that are put in for kids to walk to school, but we have children that walk to school in our neighborhood too. I just don't really understand why we don't get sidewalks. I'd like you to come to our neighborhood. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I make a comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this has been a heated discussion amongst the council, the idea of doing sidewalks. And I was very much for actually putting sidewalks in and putting the money towards it. And we had one of our council meetings this past year, our amazing financial analyst, Dean, he came in, he showed us the cost of what it would be to build these out and to do this. And then he showed us the amount of money that we have coming into the city. And so I had made the suggestion, and I said, okay, well, what if we're wanting to put, it's going to be $16 million just to put sidewalks in downtown Lehi. 2 things. Number one, if we were to go this route, Lehi as a whole is a very conservative city. And so in order to do something like that, we'd have to, number one, either increase taxes to do that, which people are like, no, we don't want to raise taxes, but we want our parks built out. We want these things built. It's like, okay, well then let's take it to a vote and see if that's what the residents really want. And I'm not against putting it to a vote to see if the residents of Lehi want to put in sidewalks. But we had that happen when we tried to do the park tax at the beginning, and it failed, right? And so I want to be optimistic and help you guys, because I'm not a pessimistic person, but we got to be realistic with it as well and realize that that's a lot of money. The city doesn't, just because we say we have reserves that are put into place, doesn't mean that we're made of cash. And so it's definitely a double-edged sword. But right now, unless the residents of Lehi want to increase our taxes, I don't know how we could feasibly do something like that when we're hurting in a lot of areas right now. And so that's just my 2 cents on it. And I would encourage each of you residents to really watch some of the past council meetings. We had an entire meeting dedicated to just the downtown sidewalks. And so I think that would kind of open eyes a little bit, because now, while I really do agree, I think that we absolutely do need them. Fiscally, can we do it? Not right now, we can't. And so.
Thank you. I think we're past our limit here, so let's bring it back up here. Get back to our regular agenda. And item number